Hello and welcome to Free Cheese episode 487. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Season 11, I would say, officially starts with Hypnospace Outlaw. Before we jump in, talk about the game, share our experiences, provide some brief reviews, and of course rank it on the list, which you can find at thefreecheese.com/thelist. Mark, do you remember the first website you visited?
First website. Whew. Well, I guess it would have to be in school, right?
That's all I'm remembering.
I think I had a computer lab. I think that was my first computer before owning a PC. So it was a good old Macintosh.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't think that far back as far as websites are in elementary school. I just remember the games I played. So, personal computer, I'm going to say... Honestly, probably a Pokemon website.
That checks out. I looking back or trying to remember as I wrote this question, I was like, yeah, it was probably whatever we had to navigate to in computer class in second grade. If it was a personal computer, it was probably some sort of keyword search. It's probably AOL.com.
Right.
Using the keyword search to look up hentai or whatever I was into back then.
Boobs.
And then, yeah, exactly. Or an AIM chat room of some kind, I guess.
Right.
Matt, if you'd had the skill set in 1999, what do you think your GeoCities page would have been about?
Jesus. Why did I get the first question?
I'm going to share them all with everybody. I'm just, keeping it fresh.
No, probably some capitals bullshit. I'm trying to think of Orioles probably aren't good. You said 99, right?
Yeah.
Orioles definitely not good at that point now. Ravens, I guess they're starting to build their first Super Bowl team, but it's not there yet. So the Capitals, that's probably the era of Peter Bondra and stuff, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, we'll say the Washington Capitals.
It's funny that Mark, you mentioned Pokemon, because thinking about an answer to this question of building a GeoCities page, I probably would have had a page about fake Pokemon. I remember being fascinated with coming up with Pokemon, or it would have been my favorite skateboards, or just a dump of Incubus lyrics, probably, is where I think I would And Matt, do you remember the first website you'd visited?
Probably ESPN.com. So, but unlike you, though, with me being homeschooled through elementary school, I never really had a computer lab. So my first foray was raw. No firewalls, no nothing.
Unfiltered.
I don't think I was the kind of child that would have immediately went to, probably not Google, Yahoo, AOL, and typed in boobs.
AskJeeves.com was probably a thing at that point.
I know I had never heard of Ask Jeeves until middle school, so I know it wasn't that.
Okay.
Probably AOL.
Yeah.
I probably went to AOL.com to then Google ESPN.com or something like that. Because I didn't know how to do .com yet.
Mark, what would you have built a website about in 1999?
Probably fan art that was like Dragon Ball Z, Sonic, and what else was I into? It's just those two things. And no, and probably probably something similar with like Digimon or Pokemon or something.
Of course, we're talking about old internet usage because Hypnospace Outlaw is a game all about the old internet. Developed by Tendershoot, published by No More Robots, first released on PC, followed by every modern platform, on March 12th, 2019. If you were to get a physical box, it would probably say something like this on the back of it. Sleep time computing, a new technology allowing users to browse the internet while they sleep, has captured the world's imagination. Hypnospace is the first and most popular sleep time service, and they've accepted your application to serve as an enforcer. As the uncertainties of a new millennium consume the bustling digital metropolis, Will you use your new post to help your fellow Hypnospace citizens, or slam them with violations to amass a Hypno coin fortune? Why did we pick this game? Well, I placed this game on the list. It was our 2019 winner for the Out of Time Award, which is an award we used to give when we used to give 100 awards per year to video games. And the award specifically was for the game that we did not play for some reason. We all wanted to play it. It was definitely something we were looking forward to playing, but in the shuffle of things and the race to play as much as we could before Game of the Year, this one did not make the cut. But we all really, really wanted to. From afar, it looked really great. It had a great sense of style and curious gameplay. And now here we are in 2023, playing it and ranking it. As the back of the box, or really that was from the game's website, there's not been a back of the box per se. There's been some physical releases in limited capacity, but nothing crazy. But as it suggests, you play the role of an enforcer. There's this headband that users can put on in the game's fictional timeline of 1999. They're browsing the internet while they sleep, and you as an enforcer have to go through and look for various types of violations. And then the game kind of builds from there, weaving narrative within game exploration. Matt, what did you expect this game to be, and how did it differ or align with those expectations?
So I had played when I sat down to play it, I realized how very little I actually played. Of this, I want to say 2 years ago or something like that. So I already kind of had an idea of what this was, but I didn't realize by the end of the game how crazy the searches are for bad things, like the things you take down as a moderator. Also, I did like how you explained what you do in this game without just saying you're a moderator on a social media platform, but no, but yeah. I didn't realize how I don't want to say ridiculous, but like intense the moderation cases become. And by the end, there's like all kinds of crazy shit you have to do to uncover secrets, or bust people for specifically Zane, busting Zane. It gets ridiculous as
Zane
it goes
rocks.
along.
I tell you that. That I do know.
It's in the name.
Mark, what about you? Did this line up with what you were expecting it to be?
No. But that's a good thing. I thought for some reason I got this mixed with another game that hits similar vibes of like late 90s internet, and I can't think of that name for the life of me, which I'm great at. No, it's one where like you go into the internet, but it's like a first person game, and you're visiting like these virtual worlds, and you're like giving everything like an actual thumbs up.
I know the movie Tron, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know the game.
Think Tron, but with like a vaporware setting, or vaporwave, or whatever it's called. Crap, I can't even find it. I have it on Steam, but I can't go through 600 games to find it.
Yeah,
not System Shock, right?
No, it was more recent, but yeah, I thought it was going to be like a first-person game where you're like you go into like a website's version of that world or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
I didn't think it was actually. I didn't think it was going to be visiting web pages. So and I think because the first splash screen of when you're becoming an enforcer, you have like those little tutorial videos that you can watch, and it shows like the little like 3D model character. I thought you're going to be. I thought you're going to be able to see more of that, and like, you know what I mean, like traversing. Yeah. So it's not that. You're just literally just going through websites and checking emails and downloading stuff, and that's cool. You just have a simulated desktop, and I'm completely okay with that. I was all in.
Yeah, to the point that like the creepy part of it is, I was recently futzing around with some stuff on my computer after having played this a few weeks back, and in my like main directory on my computer, I have a folder called HypnoS, and it's like it like becomes a part of your computer in a way, which it's just a clever way for them to install the system file or the game files or whatever. But it's just like it does kind of break the fourth wall, and it really does pull you in as a player to be this enforcer and a part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
I found that the game at first took a backseat. The actual goal for me fell behind, where I got lost in the discovery of it. And I think it took me, or it was kind of like akin to when you are playing a weird game that you rented for Nintendo 64 or something. Like, I'm just thinking of that era where we had a lot more time and developers were discovering new ways to play with physics and things. I remember fondly like all of those things where you'd rent a game, you'd start playing around and you end up playing something else entirely. Like you're not playing the objective of the game. And I found myself in this doing that naturally. And it was great because I was in bed on a laptop playing this, and like it just felt like I was browsing the web to an extent. And I found that like learning how the system works, because it's a little bit different than you're used to. There's a couple things that were a little bit of a weird learning curve for me, like how to interact with this space. Like when you're you can't just go to a website, right? You need to like search for a keyword. There's some other things you can do to navigate through this space, but mainly you need to like, there's a set path to follow to get somewhere. And that was a little strange, but learning that kind of forced you to learn what was out there. And I really enjoyed just navigating and discovering different spaces. Mark, what was your favorite site? Or I'm sure we probably all have maybe a series of favorite sites, but do you have one that stands out as a favorite or a front runner?
I think whichever one's had the catchiest music would kind of stick to me first. And this game's equivalent to Pokemon, called SquisherZ. That song gets stuck in my head.
Yes. That song has been stuck in my head all morning. Like it popped into my head as I was making coffee and brushing my teeth, and cause knowing that we're recording this today, it was there and it has not escaped me. So that's currently haunting me.
I like the Bopos website. It's like I think it's a fast food chain. Where it's like hot dogs and burgers.
I love about this game. I have no idea what you're talking about. And
You've
I feel like
never
it's been
been
a
there?
good time like exploring around, but no, I've not. So yeah, tell me what.
There's nothing too crazy with it. It's just a website about their food, about their burgers and hot dogs, and you can get like different like backgrounds and screensavers to where meat is just falling from the top of your screen.
So good. And
the music is just weird. It's just weird music to go with it. It's like those two. Granny Cream.
I did not know about Granny Cream until you sent me the video.
It's just another harmless website.
Yes.
It's another food product. I'll leave it at that. And man, I think I guess it's those three off the top of my head, but I love so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. They really like captured that era, or at least my memory of that era.
I mean, and obviously Zane's website.
Yeah, Zane. Yeah, of course.
So, Teentopia, I think, was my favorite. Just end of all of this, even before it becomes kind of pivotal. But like, it's so. This obviously is like 90s websites, right? But this also reminded me so much of like MySpace, which is post, more in the new millennium. But like,
sure,
people make their own web pages, they have their own song, and then there's this drama all throughout. And you can pick out the drama as you kind of go to other people's pages, which, frankly, you probably used to do it at some point on MySpace as well. Like, if someone wasn't in someone's fucking top 8, that was a big fucking deal. And you would go to that person's and see that person, as you know, that didn't have them, is like number 2. And then it became a big deal. That was kind of fucking talked about in school for some reason. It was dumb. And that was all those memories came back scrolling through Teentopia, especially Zane and all this other shit.
Yeah, and like his girlfriend or whatever, and like you can tell like who's more invested with their website versus the other person. Like, okay,
there was one I didn't write down who it was, but it was like a kid's website that they'd made. I can't even remember what it was. I think there was like a frog associated with it or something, but like it was. You could see that like they tried really hard to make a website, but they don't know what they're doing, so it's like all messed up. Like it's the same formatting on the left. Like you click on something and it takes you to the same thing over and over again. Like it's very clearly.
Yeah, like I know which one you're talking about. The kid was like he liked dinosaurs. And like he had the buttons for each page to go to each dinosaur, but it didn't go anywhere. You could click on it, but it didn't take you anywhere.
Yes, that's what it was. I also really loved a page called In Memory of Lisa. I discovered this when I was trying to hunt down use of Kappa Cash, which is an illegal currency in the eyes of the Hypnospace enforcers. But I found somebody's page called In Memory of Lisa. It's got a picture of a skeleton on a motorcycle with an angel behind him carrying a basket of flowers. And he's got written next to the skeleton, Carl, parentheses me, and then Lisa, parentheses my wife, Rip, next to the angel. And at the bottom it says, I still remember our rides together, like that date when you held me tight after going out to eat because you thought I was riding too fast. And then it keeps going. But like it's just...
freaking... He has a couple of pages.
Yeah, there's stuff like that that's like evocative of what people do now, even with like when you see like grandma's Facebook posts where they like overshare, but it's they don't really understand what the audience is or what's out there. And I think
it's more tasteful through those.
Yeah, but it captured that like element of the early internet usage or the early like widespread internet usage where we still don't know what we're doing, right? But we definitely didn't know what we were doing back then, and we didn't know what was right to share, what wasn't right to share. This was a time where, like, you maybe used profile pictures more than, or like avatars rather than your own profile picture, where now everything is about, like, put your face on this thing, and it wasn't always that way, unless you were Zane. Yeah.
2 phases.
Yes. Yeah, a couple times. I feel like we need to have a whole chapter of this podcast dedicated to Zane. And how much he rocks. And also, like, you know, his girlfriend, Tiffany, and how Tiffany evolved and all that stuff. Was it Tiffany? Was his girlfriend? Or was that...
I can't remember now. I'll have it written down.
I think so, because there's Tiffany, and then I think there's Jessie or Jessica.
Oh, you know what? No. Jessica was his. Tiffany's the one... I've got a screenshot of Tiffany Wright's status from her page. This happens like a little bit through the game, but she says, yes, believe it or not, cough, I am now, capital R, religious, which means I am prohibited from romantic entanglements with atheist boys. I hope this is understood.
Right. No. Okay. I remember who she is now. I think there's another girl with a T that was made up. Like somebody made up their girlfriend. So like, so Corey and Zane, I believe, were the 2 that didn't like each other.
Yeah.
like Zane picked on Corey, and then vice versa. And then Corey tried to like put this image out there of himself to where like he was like as highly liked or whatever, and he made a separate website under a fake alias to prove that he had a girlfriend, which obviously he didn't because he had to admit it later.
So
dumb.
One of my favorite things about the Zane case, because it's a case that leads you to Zane for the first time, and then you kind of see this drama unfold between Corey and Zane. But one of the mechanics of this game is if you flag someone's website so much, or I don't want to say flag because that's a different term that I'm leading to, but
If you find the violations, I guess.
If you
mark violations,
mark violations so much, their whole page becomes eligible to flag, and if you flag them, then it goes to another team that's not you to investigate the case and then either kick them off or suspend them or whatever. I think my favorite thing, though, is obviously Zane's the asshole in this entire thing, and he obviously started. But if you ping Corey's stuff in retaliation way more than you do Zane's, Corey's the one that gets thrown off Hypno, and Zane gets like a 3-day penalty.
Yeah.
And I assume that plays into the ending a bit, right?
So that can. Yeah. I don't know how much. By the time I got to the end, I didn't realize that I could impact it in that way. So I don't know. I never went back to see like what I did to maybe impact that. But Zay was around for that ending.
Yeah. Did you have a type of enforcement that you enjoyed performing the least?
The least.
Trying to remember them all now. It's money, harassment, copyright.
Yeah. Viruses.
Oh, yeah.
Distribution of, like, malicious software? Or does that tied into viruses?
Viruses.
Right? I think that was under the same umbrella.
I like the the copyright one, because the first case evolves into something spectacular that I just kept going through and digging it all every time I saw it, just to piss these people off.
So let's pivot then from the least favorite to the most fun, which I think you start off with your very first case, and you're assigned cases via email. So you get emails pinged to your inbox that say, hey, check out, or you do have a separate like case tab, but like you're notified, hey, you have a new case via email. And there's a lot of communication that comes in within this world's internal inbox. And the first one you get is to go seek out copyright infringements of any website using this Gooper fish. It's supposed to be an old, 20s or 30s cartoon or something.
I think so, yeah.
And it's this like goldfish in a trench coat kind of deal. I lit up this little girl's page, just top to bottom. She had all these
flagged it too.
all these drawings, and it was just like ban. She clapped back too. She put a status up like after the fact that if you like kind of follow back with her page, and then if you can bookmark pages, which was pretty cool. You have stamps rather, so you can stamp a page. And there were certain sites where, as I started to realize that pages would change over time, because I think like Zane's narrative is one that you kind of see pretty early on, that like, oh, there's going to be some sort of through line as this game progresses. I started bookmarking pages with a specific stamp to tell me like, come back to this later and see what happens. I did it with a few, and she was one where I was like, I need to visit this to see how her page evolves, and or just to like check in on the status of her. But enforcement, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna echo you. The Gooper side story is definitely one of my favorites. Just all these sites that you just find the character and you just remove them, and then like they all band together, and
that's and then you just light them up again.
Well, until it gets to a point where you can't anymore.
Well, right, yeah,
and it's like, oh damn it, they won. It's so funny.
But I really liked so the game starts you off, right? You've got that Gooper case as your first introduction to being an enforcer, finding these infringements and calling them out. And at some point you're introduced, there's a task to go search for people who are using invalid forms of currency, because you're only supposed to use HypnoCoin. Any other alternative form of transaction or money is banned in Hypnospace. And there's the most popular one is Kappa Cash. You have to go seek out Kappa Cash. And I think like the first time you find an instance of it, it's pretty easy to come across, but there's another time when you need to, I can't remember if it was like a requirement to go find it, or if it was just like one of those missions where it's like, hey, just go find stuff. And when it was like, we're swamped, we can't assign you cases, so just go find stuff, and as you report it, we'll call them cases. There's that little like section in the middle of the game, and I don't remember where it was, but one of those, it led me to a fortune teller's page named Sherry. Did you guys run into Sherry and her whole saga?
Yeah, I ran into it from the assigned case.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I remember going through, and just by using context clues, at that point the game has taught you enough about how to navigate a page and understand a page and use keywords to look around at how pages are related to one another, that you can start to piece together certain things about how users use this space themselves, get into the mind of the user, and then figure out, oh, I bet I can guess what Sherry's secret password is to her secret page where she sells all of these private services using Kappa Cash. And I felt so smart figuring out exactly how to crack her password using that other guy's top secret password. Like, and it's nothing that is actually like clever. Like, it's a pretty dumb password to figure out, and it's pretty straightforward once you get it, but naturally getting there, like learning the game, learning the tools of the game, and then stepping my way through to getting to that secret page, reporting her for Kappa Cash time and time again, like that, it felt like, oh man, I did something cool here. And I think that was the thing for me with the game, is just like, it really did blur the lines between this is a video game I'm playing and actually, like, no, I am an enforcer. Like, you really do take the role of that, like in the whole sense of the word. That part I felt was really. Was there an instance for you guys that you felt like, oh, I'm in this. I am Hypnospace. I understand what this world is.
Like the point, like a part of the game that just has you like fully immersed, or you're just
yeah, where like all of a sudden you were no longer playing a game. You had become the enforcer. Because I felt like that was like, oh, I get it. I'm in this now. And I think like it was pretty much in that moment where I just played the game through to the end, because I just couldn't detach myself. I was so invested at that point, and it had like fully hooked me in the way that.
Yeah, I think the beginning was a little rough for me to understand. I think because like it doesn't really hold your hand, and I think I was expecting it to, or kind of hope it did a little bit, and so it was just a little jarring, and just like I just immediately like downloaded the virus, so like I didn't know how to get rid of it, and it was just like a little struggle for me. But once I got past that and actually understood what was going on, it wasn't long before I found myself like just sinking a lot of time in with each session. So I think like immediately after, probably right after the Gooper stuff, yeah, like I was already enthralled.
The gameplay, it never, I don't want to say clicked, because I understood it, and I did enjoy kind of like once you figured out like their file sharing method. It was very taking me back to the LimeWire days all of a sudden. Which if I was a user there, I would totally be using that for all that shit. But I don't know. I liked exploring, and I think the best part of the game was actually very early on when I'm trying to figure out and navigate the website. And I think it was the first play session. Like Joe, I just kind of popped it into my had a laptop on couch, and I just saw Victoria peeking. So what I ended up doing was I actually then airplayed it to the TV so she could like see it without having to like lean over. And we were both, she wasn't as active as I was, obviously, but we were both just like peeking at dumb 90s websites and the interface, and just looking at the dumb, all the dumb web pages, especially again Teentopia and the drama of all that crap. But yeah, I would say like as cool as this game is, I think the game is the weakest part. And I don't know, it never grabbed me.
I will say, like, I liked some of the earlier cases, but some get a little too layered or too complex to my liking, to where, like, I had to give up and just use a guide, because I didn't want to spend any more time trying to
There's no way I'd
it
figure
out.
out the end without a guide. I will 100% admit that. I'm not smart enough. If you are, congratulations, you have
Or,
another
like-
level of brain that I don't.
Like, it does do a decent job of, like, kind of making you feel like you're jumping too far ahead of something.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, all right, I have this program, but I don't know what I need it for. And then once you start cruising, more like, oh, this is what I need it for, or something like that. That's cool. But yeah, I guess that's an element of this game where it's like, it's so open to where, like, you approach things your own way that just comes with a number of, I guess, obstacles you can run into that's only on your playthrough or something. So I guess that's just a trade-off of having a game that doesn't really hold your hand.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I didn't think about, like, it didn't, when I reflected on the game, I kind of forgot about that middle or mid to late aspect of it. But the game, without going into too deep of spoilers for anyone listening who hasn't played this, the game jumps around time-wise. There's some stuff you have to do to sort of there's a lot of things you start to learn as you play that maybe Hypnospace isn't so safe. And as the game jumps around and gets toward its end game, you, as a former enforcer, need to assist with a modern-day group to kind of uncover the underpinnings of what went wrong with Hypnospace when it went wrong. And in doing that, yeah, I agree with both of you. It's not super apparent always, like, how you would get. I think, like, if you're patient and you work your way through, you could get there, but it goes from being kind of very, not obvious, because, like I said, you do need to, like, work to get some of the solutions earlier on. Like, you have to, like, understand how to navigate through the world and interact with things and know what it's looking, or what it wants you to look for. But by the end of it, it kind of, it wants a very specific thing done, and it doesn't feel as free as it did early on. And it's tough to, if you don't get it right away, it's tough to get it, I think.
I like the end game, that part of it, like the uncovering a mystery part of it, without getting into spoilers.
Yeah.
That was the part that I did not like. I actually kind of appreciated the archiving part of it. It was like a really good
7 different.
Yeah, it was a really good way of showing you, like, hey, you didn't hit nearly as much as you thought you hit, and it encourages you to go back and maybe see some of those web pages that, like, the old, like, Granny Cream. Like, I didn't see it there, but, like, if I looked at the archive, like, kind of uploader thing, I would have seen, like, oh, I have X pages missing. Let me start browsing around. I may have ran into it. I at that point I was kind of tapping out of the game. I kind of didn't want to, because it turned into that other part was draining, and I eventually tapped out and used a guide. But yeah, I think if I was still in it, I would have started doing some of the archiving stuff to see what I missed.
I think my biggest hurdle was anything that needed a password. Specifically when it came to that, like, Fantasyland part that you're, like, going through, and that whole part for me, and, like, trying to find, like, a F-list code, like the right one for that music, like, that was the toughest part for me. That was just like,
yeah,
where do I even begin? And it's just like, but other than that, nothing was really as bad as that for me, I think. So maybe 2 or 3 times I just had a little struggle, but nothing to deter me.
That's also, I know there was some keyboard shortcuts in this game. Yeah, I don't think I utilized them perfectly, but man, I would have loved 2 monitors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
database and emails on one, and just...
Yeah, and like a sticky note for said passwords, readily available and not behind the screen that you need to input, so you're clicking back and forth. But I mean, it's like, I think that stuff's kind of not thought of back then. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah, that was the
funnily
thing,
enough, I ended up on the Mister booting into Mac, like old OS 10, or not OS 10, like OS 9 or whatever it is, like, because the Mister supports that. Just to, like, feel what that, because they very much kind of modeled that old interface and it, gave it some color and it was definitely more modern or whatever. But just to see, I was like, what does it feel like to write a document in this old space? Because you have this memory of it, right? And you have things like Hypnospace that do what they do to replicate what you remember of it, and maybe to an extent what the experience was. But I really wanted to feel what it felt like to be in there, and they did a really good job in Hypnospace of like capturing that part of an operating system, and like how you really had to like move windows. And like right now on most modern operating systems, you can pin things. There's so many different little like handy things about using, multiple monitors, multiple screens, and have, back then it was a little different. Speaking of the freelands, I would say that to date, Ready to Shave by Chowderman, the song that plays over the freelands, is still my top. Like, that is the one. It's the one that not just me, but within this household, out in the street, since playing this game a month ago, this has been permeating the household. I've got the blade and I'm ready to shave. What song is still stuck in your head, Mark?
Christmas Pain and Christmas Town.
So
listeners, we were playing this, or at least I was playing this around the week of Christmas. So this was perfect timing to find a random website just had this music video. and you can find it on YouTube. It's great. It's like a 5-minute song with great visuals of just Chowderman just singing about Christmas pain. It got stuck in my head for a good while.
Yeah, it's very good. There's a lot of Chowderman songs on streaming platforms as well, and I think there's a Bandcamp page you can buy the album from.
Oh,
Matt,
and
what about you?
of course.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, sorry. I want to hear Matt's answer first.
So it's not even like a specific song, because I don't even know the lyrics to it, but specifically the first like 5 notes of Zane's page. Do 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 do.
Yeah. So yeah, I was about to say, fucking shout out to Seepage.
Yeah. But that's specifically.
Yeah, Seepage owns and Zane rocks, till the end. Did either of you collect all of the SquisherZ?
No.
Yes.
Whoa! Did you use a guide?
No.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
No, I wanted to. First, I was just like, all right. I click one, and you just hear SquisherZ, and I'm like, all right. For some reason, I want more of this, and I kept going, and I got all the stickers, and then that was my favorite theme for my operating system to change to.
Yeah, I got a good chunk of them on my own, and then I was like, I'm not gonna be able to find these without a guide, I think. And I kind of like went on the hunt before the point in the game where you start to get the ability to like go through archives and you can jump time and look around. Once I got to that, I was able to pick up a couple more, but even pretty early on, I got some just by looking around. But I knew I wasn't going to get it without looking something up, so I didn't pursue. But yeah. There's a lot. Themes, yes. Like you just mentioned, you can apply themes to your operating system. You can change little aspects of it, which, again, feels very much of the era. I completely... It's one of those things where you've had so many life experiences that not all of them are always ever at the front of your mind. And sometimes it takes something like this to pull it back. Completely forgot about the entire marketplace. I mean, it wasn't a marketplace like literally where you're paying for things, but like just the entire digital whatever of getting and obtaining different cursor styles. Did you guys do that way back when? Like, I remember going to a website and downloading and installing so many different cursors, ones that look like Pokeballs, ones that had fire, ones that were just Sonic's butt. Like, there was just endless possibilities for what you could do to your computer, and I no idea.
Like, I would have like a I would have a Zelda like Windows XP theme or XP could still use, I think, 98 visuals. You could opt between the two or something like that. And so it would change all the colors. It would be like green, yellow, and like brown, and like a Master Sword would be the cursor, and you had Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past sound fonts for everything. It's good stuff.
How about, why don't we get ready to rank this one? But in closing, Matt, what are your lasting impressions of Hypnospace Outlaw?
I think it's very fun to go and spend at least a few hours. And if you get yourself lost in the game, like, go for it. Like, I think there's a lot here. But at least it's worth it to at least just go back. Like, I call it time machine, but like, go back in the time machine for a couple hours, at least get some laughs, and then see if you get invested in the game or not. I think you're going to know very early on if you like the moderating part of it. Yeah, and I would say, like, at least play to the point where you kind of get your first time jump, and then kind of go from there. But it's at least worth checking out in some way, just for nostalgia.
Mark, how about you? What's your lasting impression? Or
I love how creative this game goes with the nostalgia of like late 90s internet. I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It was a little odd at first to jump into, but at least for me personally. But once after that, and the ball's rolling, I just got hooked. I think I was more captivated of just looking forward to seeing what songs I was going to hear next more than anything. So that was good. But no, overall, I like it, and just the way it ended, I think that it was a pretty good ending. I like how it kind of wrapped that up, and I like what it can lead to.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, but Mark had shared that there's a sequel that's been announced, and within the sequel, there's a spin-off game that's coming as well. There's a lot of good still within
Frog Fractions 3. Is this the one?
Matt, you need to check out Slayer's X. There's a demo on Steam. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah, I really liked the care and attention that it seemed the developers put into not just each web page, but the characters behind the web page. I think everybody had a really strong sense of personality that shone in different ways, and it was evocative of that. Like, I remember having just weird conversations with strangers in chat rooms, in whatever, and you had this. I mean, also I was 12, so of course you have, your filter's a little different than it probably would be now. Also, now to do any of this stuff, you're pretty exposed. Like, it's very easy to figure out who you're talking to on the other side. But I remember having this kind of just a sense of openness with strangers back then, like, not in a creepy way, but just like,
right.
You really said what you were thinking and feeling and whatever. And as you interact with classmates or whoever online, you kind of felt at that time like you could finally be yourself in a way. And I really got that from every character and their page and what they put out there and what they chose to express. I thought that was very intriguing, and it's something we've lost in modern internet usage, where, I don't know, for me, and I think I wrote this in my review and now I'm just like accidentally regurgitating it here, so forgive me, but there's something that, like, today everyone posts every moment of their day. Not everyone, but we've gotten into that habit as a species too. Just like, here's this what I'm eating, here's this what I'm thinking, here's this what I'm doing, I saw this, I'm thinking about this. And in the end, it's all so empty and just void of anything. Where this, you're getting one page at a time, but it says so much more about this person and what they chose to actually share and bottle up in this little experience and put out there for Hypnospace to see. And that realization that the team at Tendershoot had to put together into these little time capsules of a fake character's life, that was really what stood out to me and I think lasted with me is just, weirdly enough, like just the characters behind everything. Yeah, that's what sticks with me. So why don't we rank this at thefreecheese.com/the-list. We are, of course, building on our list of 45 games established in Season 10 last year. Got 45 episodes for you to check out if you've not heard what we do here before. They're all there available for you to listen to and peruse. And, of course, if you want to hear or read a bit more about our thoughts on Hypnospace, all three of us have our full reviews with our new review scoring system in place over at thefreecheese.com on the web page for this particular episode. Oh, this feels weird to penetrate the list of season 10 with something new. It feels, but we got to do it. We got to get dirty. I got it for me.
Shoot,
let's hear it.
It's your game.
I feel really strongly about this game overall, but in terms of where we are on the list and in the hierarchy of things, I feel like this is a good new... I was going to say the new 21, and then I looked at Beautiful Joe, and I feel like maybe it's the new 17. Maybe it's the new 16. Did you guys have a target range you were looking at?
No.
Not necessarily. Maybe it's season 11. I don't have a ballpark anymore. Now I'm just sitting back and listening.
See what happens next week.
I think I would place it at number 13.
Above Parasite Eve.
Or below.
Or below.
Maybe right above Deadly Premonition.
Deadly Premonition is a game that has ascended just like Hypnospace Outlaw.
I could put it there too.
I don't think I'm that high on it as much as you all are. However...
You don't got that Chowderman tilt.
I mean...
Yeah, you need to...
But, like, once you get into that range, I also, like, I'm not, like, passionate about that game either. So I'm kind of, like, okay wherever in that range. I think my ceiling is Parasite Eve. Like, I don't see it going above it. I think that's where we start to kind of take that next level a little bit. But, yeah, as far as, like, between, where did you say, Joe? Like, 17 to 14?
Yeah. Yeah, but now that Mark's pointed out, I would put this over Deadly Premonition.
I'm okay with that.
I would probably put it over Parasite Eve. For me personally, like, this is up there with the Hotlines of the world. But, like, you know, collectively, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, like, either above or below Deadly, I think, is the sweet spot for me.
I go above Deadly.
I do too, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we're good with that. All right. It doesn't feel dirty anymore. We're moving right along. Hypnospace Outlaw is our new number 14. Just between Parasite Eve and Deadly Premonition. Again, if you want to see the entire list, we encourage you to do so over at thefreecheese.com/the-list. Come back, hang out with us next week. We're talking Undertale, the 2015 classic. Tune in and find out. Of course, if you want to know everything we're playing this month and see the whole breakdown of the podcast scheduled, we're now announcing all the games of the month at the top of the month. So on the first of every month this year, you'll see a big banner page on thefreecheese.com. Right now, it's the top article on the front page. Click on the touching hands, and you'll see the entire January breakdown. Until next week, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chowderman. And thank you, listener, for listening. Are you sure you want to log off HypnoOS?